I can't believe I'm saying this, but welcome to my new YouTube channel. It's crazy. Those of you who know me know that this has probably been a long time coming because it's something that I've wanted to do for a while, but I was shy and I didn't really think that anybody would want to hear what I have to say. But then recently, I made some posts on social media that got quite a lot of attention about my recent success in getting into Harvard Business School to do my MBA, and that kind of just gave me the kickstart that I needed to just do this channel. Even if it just helps one person, literally just one person, then it's doing the job that I want it to do, because the idea is to kind of just give advice and gems on applications, business school, and if you guys really want to hear about it, my own lifestyle, especially when I get to Harvard, I'd maybe like to do some like vlogs. Maybe, that's very far in the future, but for now anyway, it's gonna be very professional focused, very much just giving you guys the tools that you need to succeed in your professional pathways. But yeah, so I really would appreciate it if you guys support the channel, sending the video to anyone you know who you think it will be useful for. This will be for university student or college if you're in America, and also like recent graduates, young professionals. So yeah. Oh, and actually I have an announcement I forgot to include. So I'm finally decided to launch a consulting career service where basically you can book time with me on my website and I can go through CVs, cover letters, MBA applications, whatever you need help with. I've had a lot of experience in a lot of different fields. For those of you who don't know me, I studied chemical engineering at university and I've done investment banking internships in the top investment bank. You can see on my LinkedIn, I don't want to put any names here before I get in trouble, but yeah, I did investment banking internships at top US banks and European banks, and I've also done or had some success in some MBB or McKinsey Bain BCG applications, which I'll talk about in later videos. But for now, that's basically my professional background. So if you think that my advice will help you in any way, feel free to go on the website and book some time with me. And I'll also be offering, I'll explain this on my social media, so make sure you're following me on LinkedIn because I'll probably be using that the most to communicate with you guys. But on LinkedIn, I'll be offering some free sessions as well for people who come from state school education, so non-fee paying essentially, in the UK specifically, sorry to anyone outside of the UK. But I really want to make sure that people who don't necessarily come from backgrounds where they can afford my services, that's the background I'm from. I don't come from a privileged background at all, so I want to make sure that people who can't afford those services are still able to reach me and ask me for help. I'll put more details in the description box. But for the most part, all my sessions will be on the website, so feel free to go there and book them. Back to my video, without much further ado, let's get cracking. I'm not gonna say that. Let's start my first YouTube video, so crazy to say, which is going to be a Q&A on how I got into Harvard Business School. I got a lot of questions, and I'm really sorry if I don't get to answer your question. I had to just pick the most frequently asked ones because there was just too many. But I hope, yeah, this will be useful. And I am planning to do a whole series where I'll go into more detail about each part of the process, so look out for that as well. But for now, I'm just gonna answer some questions. So the first question is, what is the Harvard 2+2 program? Okay, so the Harvard 2+2 program is essentially a deferred admissions program, which is actually something I really want to clarify because some people thought I was going to Harvard like September, start flying to the US. No, that's not happening. I mean, it wouldn't be able to happen anyway because of the current situation with travel restrictions. But essentially, deferred admissions programs are programs where you apply as an undergraduate student in your final year, and you basically get the option to join a business school in the next 2 to 4 or 2 to 5 years, depending on the school. So Harvard are not the only university that do programs like this. Other top universities in the US do this. Yale does one, MIT does one, Chicago Booth, Stanford. You can look online to see more about those programs, and I'm actually going to do a video in more detail talking about the different programs and why you should apply to them. Yeah, so essentially it's a way for you to reserve a space in a business school in the future. But to do an MBA, you need some years of experience first, so you have to have done at least 2 years of work experience before you can ask to start your MBA program. So yeah, that's basically how it works, and I was fortunate enough to get offers from multiple places, but Harvard is the one that I have accepted. Next question, did you apply to any other programs, and if so, did you get any other offers? So I kind of just alluded to that, but yes, I did. So I applied to Harvard, MIT, Sloan, Chicago Booth, and Stanford, and I got offers from Harvard, MIT, and Chicago Booth. Didn't get into Stanford. But no, I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, and actually Harvard was my #1 choice, so I'm really happy that I got admission there. why do you want to do an MBA and how do you think it's going to help your career? I.e., given that you're relatively young and you might not be certain on your path, how do you know what future path you're going to take? I want to clarify. I think there's a misconception that maybe based off of what I've done, or I don't know what it is, but some people think that I have it all figured out, that I have like a 10-year plan of exactly what I want to achieve. That couldn't be further from the truth. I think I'm just somebody who, I don't know, I keep laughing. I just like to try new things, and I'm very open to different opportunities, and so I put myself out there and I apply for stuff and then it comes back. But I would say in terms of why I decided to apply for these MBA programs, I think an MBA is something that I've considered doing, and it's something that I think is an amazing stepping stone, or just really, I would say more a milestone in your career journey. It opens doors to other sectors that you might not have considered before. It broadens your network, and I'll do a more detailed video on why I do an MBA later. But I think just to summarize, for me, the main things that attracted me to wanting to do an MBA was the network that I would build, and also the opportunity to really solidify my business/finance background, because I studied engineering at undergraduate, so I don't really have any finance background. All I know is what I've learned from on the job. So essentially the MBA was a way for me to also solidify that training while meeting people from all around the world who have done amazing things before their MBA program. Guide to the application process for beginners. That's a good question. I think if you're just starting out and especially, I'm speaking more specifically to deferred admissions people, but even people who are considering going to business school in the next 2 or 3 years maybe, I would say the first thing is start preparing for your GMAT now. No, I'm joking. It's definitely the biggest part. Well, in my opinion, I think it's the biggest part of the process, because it takes a lot of time to prepare, and like I'll do another video on more specifically how I prepared and how I was able to achieve the score I needed to get into Harvard and other good business schools. But yeah, I would say that GMAT is the first place to start. So buy the materials, get started on learning the content. And then I think the second biggest thing to do is to just start researching. So think about what schools you want to apply for, because I know on the website they might all seem very similar, but try and go to like webinars. A lot of the schools are doing a lot of virtual events because of the pandemic. So use that opportunity to get to know more about the potential schools and figure out which one is going to align more with your future career goals and what you think you want to get out of your MBA. What's the difference between the 2+2 program and the normal process? So there is no difference as far as I'm aware from, I guess I would say I'm aware because like I've done the 2+2 process, and also on the website you see the requirements for each one. But I would say the difference would be in what they're looking for in certain aspects, because obviously if you apply as a full-time professional, you have work experience, you can talk more about that side of things, whereas when you're an undergraduate, they're not going to expect you to have led a team of 50 people to do XYZ stuff and demonstrate leadership. Like the leadership things they'll be looking for are more in your extracurricular activities, things that you've done for the community and stuff like that. So I think maybe what differs slightly is the focus on where they're trying to find the qualities they're looking for, but they're still trying to find the same qualities at the end of the day. So it's not that big of a difference. How much did COVID play a part in your application process? It played a huge part. For good and bad reasons. I would say the benefits, I wouldn't say good because obviously this has been a terrible time, but in terms of the benefits of the current situation for my process in particular was that I got more time. So the deadlines were all extended to June from April, apart from Stanford. Everyone else extended their deadlines to June, which gave me the opportunity to really hone in on my essay, do more research on what they're looking for, and the big GMAT. Gave me more time to revise and actually take it. But then on the flip side of that, I couldn't take it because all the test centers were closed, and it was very stressful because the schools have a certain deadline that you have to submit your scores and everything by, and I didn't even know if I'd be able to take my GMAT exam. But in the end, I ended up taking the online version, which was a whole other situation that I'll explain in my GMAT video. And yeah, it wasn't the best situation, but I'm just happy that I still ended up where I wanted to be. What was the part of your application process that you focused the most on and the least on? That's a weird question. I got similar variations of this question a lot, actually. I think maybe people mean is what did I spend the most time on, because I would say in terms of focus, you should focus on everything. Because if you really want this, you really need to put the time in and make sure that you're getting every aspect of your application to the best level that you can get it to. And I think for me, I'm a numbers person, so when I think about the processes I'm going through, I always think, okay, like I'm competing with a lot of people. The statistics are dire, especially for Harvard 2+2, it's less than a 1 in 10 chance. So I need to make sure that I'm putting my all into every part. And if it doesn't happen, then I can say I have no regrets because I did my all and it just wasn't meant to be. And if I do get in, then that's a testament to my hard work. So I would say definitely focus on everything and don't leave anything to last minute or think like that's not important. But I would say in terms of what I spent the most time on, kind of alluded to that already, but the GMAT, I struggled a lot with the GMAT, I think, because, so those of you who know me personally, I'm really bad at studying, which you wouldn't think it, but I'm just very lucky that I can absorb information very quickly without having to study for a long period of time. But the GMAT was not like that. The GMAT was very much practice. And so I think that was what I spent the most time on because I had to make sure I was getting those scores up to the scores that I knew I needed to be getting to be able to even be competitive for the Harvard process. So I'd say, yeah, the GMAT was something that I spent the most time on. And also the essays. The essays are really important, so I spent a lot of time on that as well. Did you take the GMAT or the GRE? So for people who might not be aware of the process, there's 2 exams you can take. So you have to take a standardized test with your application, but you can take 2. You can either take the GMAT or the GRE. And there's like a whole debate on which one is the best one to take. But I think it kind of comes down to the kind of learner you are. And as a mathematics focused person, supposedly the GMAT was going to be the better option for me. So I went that way. But equally, the GRE is just as okay to take. So it just depends really on the way that I would say try both and then figure out which one you think works in terms of the expectations in the exam. What GMAT score did you get and how did you prepare for it? So yeah, this is a good question, and I really do want to be as transparent as possible on this channel. Like, I don't want there to be any questions that you guys don't think you can ask me. Obviously, I mean relating to professional stuff, but in terms of like my career path and like decisions I've made, feel free to ask me these kind of questions, it's fine. But I'll just be honest, I'll say my score. So I got a 720, but I took the online GMAT, and so that was a lot trickier to navigate through for reasons I'll explain. Again, I've said this already, but I'll explain in my GMAT video. But yeah, I took the online GMAT and got a 720, which I was a bit disappointed about because in my practice test, where I was doing the normal format, I was getting like 750, 740 on average. So I think I definitely could have done that if I'd done it in person, but we'll never know. I got into Harvard, so I'm not taking it again, although I did consider taking it again if I didn't get in, which is not to say that 720 is not good enough. I really want to make that clear. There's no set GMAT that you need to get into these schools. There's obviously ranges they give, but like there's no set GMAT. I just knew that I personally could achieve higher, and if I got the opportunity to do it again, I was going to do it again to get those scores that I think were a better reflection on my ability. But I got in with a 720, so it really, at the end of the day, it would have been a waste of money, I guess. What do you think made your application stand out? Yeah, I got that question quite a lot. I honestly don't know. I couldn't tell you. I think, yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, it was a big shock to me that I even got in, because I think everybody has this picture in their head of Harvard and the kind of person that gets into Harvard, and you can never really, well, I personally didn't really connect that with me and my experiences. But I would say that the feedback I got from my interviewer and just generally from the other schools that I applied to was that I just came across as very authentic and genuine, and I was just being myself. And I think that's the best advice that I've gotten throughout the MBA process, and that would encourage anyone who's applying. Don't try to be who you think Harvard want you to be. Don't pretend to be someone you're not. Just be yourself, and if it works out, great. If it doesn't, you can say that I didn't compromise who I am and it wasn't the right fit for me. But I don't think you should ever try to mold yourself into what you think they want to hear, because I promise you it won't work, because over time you're going to get to a point where you can't keep up the story anymore, and they'll figure it out. They're very trained and skilled interviewers. The admissions board are very, very experienced in this stuff, so there's no point trying to trick them or trying to lie. So just be yourself, and if it's the right school for you, you'll get in, and if you don't, it's also not necessarily a reflection on you, because a lot of it is luck. And yeah, if I'm being honest, a lot of it is luck, and if you don't get in, it doesn't necessarily mean you were not good enough to get in. It just means that it wasn't the right time for you. I'm a firm believer in what's meant to be will be, and what isn't meant to be won't be. How did you prepare for the interview? So that's a good question. And I don't know about people watching this, but I don't really come from a privileged background where I have people around me who went to universities like Harvard or did MBAs in those kinds of schools. So I had no clue where to start with preparing for my interviews as they started coming in. So I used LinkedIn. I signed up for, actually let me not expose myself, but let me just expose myself. I signed up for a free trial on LinkedIn Premium because normally LinkedIn has a limit on how many invitations you can set. So I got the free trial, and for 2 weeks I was just sending out so many invitations to people. I would say the tip, make sure you include a message because it just makes it so much more likely that you'll get a response. So I'd send out all these messages to people from the different schools that I was applying to, and also make sure you try and target people from your geography and preferably like a similar university that you went to, just because you're more likely to have someone respond. That was something I observed anyway. But yeah, I used LinkedIn, messaged lots of people, had lots of phone calls from recent alum and current students, and yeah, I just kind of got a feel for the universities or colleges. I keep saying I'm English if you haven't noticed already, so I'm going to say universities, but if you're American, I'm referring to colleges. So I basically just messaged lots of people, had lots of phone calls, and used that to be the basis for what I needed to prepare for my interviews. And also the internet, but the internet's a bit dangerous because people put what they think the answer is, but most times they actually haven't even been given an interview, so they don't even know what they're talking about. So I would say the best source to go to people who've actually done the process and been successful, because obviously they did something right. So the next question is, for someone who wants to get into the Harvard Business School MBA program as soon as possible, what advice do you have for success? So I think I've kind of said everything already, but to summarize, I would say the first thing is start early. So the biggest stress of this process for me was that I only found out about these programs quite late into the process, probably like maybe 2 months before the deadline or 3 months before the deadline, which wasn't enough time, in my opinion, to get my application to a point that would be good enough, if that makes sense. So if you're watching this now, if I've stuck to my timeline, this should be in September 2020. If I've stuck to my timeline, this should be September 2020. So you've got so many months, because typically the deadlines are around April of the following year. So April 2021 for those of you who are watching this as I'm posting. So I would say the earlier you start, the better. Get your GMAT done, as much information as you can from webinars and just different visits. I would say, some people say, you know, visit the campus, get a feel for it, and I don't know about you guys, but I don't have the funds for that. So I was just very much YouTubing and calling people on LinkedIn. So I would say start that as soon as you can, and it really does go a long way to making your application more authentic and specific to the schools you're applying to. Don't copy and paste stuff. Make sure each application you do is very unique to that school, and yeah, you'll definitely be successful. Whether Harvard or any other school, I think that advice is universal. Is there anything I would change if I had to complete the process all over again? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't think so, no. I think if there's one thing, it would be I wish I could have started earlier. But of course, I didn't know it existed, so I wouldn't have been able to. But if I had known about it earlier, I would have liked to have started earlier, just because it would have made everything less stressful. But lockdown kind of took away all of my excuses, so I was still able to get everything done in time. Yeah, start early if I could have done it again. But other than that, I don't really have any regrets. I got to the university I wanted to get into, and yeah, I was myself throughout the process. So no, there's nothing that I would change. Maybe just start preparing earlier. And that's it. So that's the last question I have for today's video. But thank you so much, guys. If you're hearing this now, it means you got all the way to the end. So thank you so much for watching the video and for supporting, and I hope that you found this useful, and I hope you find the future videos I'm gonna do. I'm trying to make a promise to myself and to you guys that I'm gonna be consistent. I'm going to, in fact, I'm gonna say it on this video. I'm gonna I'm gonna upload a video at least once a week for the foreseeable future. I'll put that in there. I'm gonna really try and be consistent with this, because I know a lot of people would really benefit from the advice I'm giving. And like I said as well, if you still feel like you want that one-on-one personalized time with me, then you can book some time with me on my website, and I'll be sure to get back to you. But yeah, I think that's it. I'm rambling now. I'm gonna end this video here. But thank you guys. Like, comment, subscribe. And also, big thing, please comment and email me actually. Don't message me, because I'm really bad with messages. But Email me any questions you have. My email will be in the description box. Comment on the bottom of this video any topics you really want me to cover based off of my profile. You can look on my LinkedIn, it's going to be linked in the description. If based on my profile there's something you really burning want to know about my journey, then feel free to comment and I will do my absolute best to try and get a video out on that. But yeah, so that's it guys. Just gonna sign it out here. See you in my next video. Bye.